Welcome once again, everybody, to Blockbuster Mentality. I'm your host, Ben. Got another fun show for you folks today. We are joined by actor Tim Baltz. You might know him from Righteous Gemstones. He plays BJ. And we had a great conversation with him on Wes Anderson's 1996 film, his feature film debut with Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Bottle Rocket. Had a blast talking with him about it. We got deep into it, and just loved hearing him be enthusiastic about it and why he loves it and being passionate about it. That's what you love to see with these guests we have. And he's a super nice guy and had a blast speaking with him. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Blockbuster Mentality and Twitter at BlockbusterCast. Follow or just go to blockbustermentality.com, and all of those things I just mentioned are where you can get updates on the show, when new episodes come out, all that fun. Make sure you give us that 5-star review on iTunes. Takes you 30 seconds. It's a quick thing to do. Helps us out a lot. Helps us climb those charts. Anyway, here is my fun conversation on Bottle Rocket with Tim Baltz.
I'm actually going, this is an odd coincidence because the last episode of y'all's podcast that I listened to was with Matt Walsh, the Blade Runner one.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, I gotta listen to that one at least.
Yes.
And then he and Tim Simons reached out yesterday, and they were like, will you do the Veep Rewatch podcast with us? Because your episode is coming up. We'd love to have you in. And I'm like, yes, but okay, shit. It just became like a really busy day. I was like, I want to do it. This is, I'll explain this coincidence to you later. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you listening to that. That was a fun one because I really like when, we actually, get into the themes of the movie. I mean, I like it when we just shoot the shit and don't really get too serious too. But yeah, that was one of those where it was just like we were able to really get into that movie, which is awesome.
You were all like, you could tell like there was a certain point where it was like, okay, we're going really deep at this
yes.
point. Just really animated from there on. That was great.
AI and, all that, simulation. I've been asking guests lately because we're in that award season right now. Is someone, as someone in the business, or is the award season interesting to you? Have you ever been like an Oscar fan and stuff like that?
I think when I was younger, just because, people would have watch parties, they would kind of keep tabs on it. Weirdly, like since I started getting screeners, I'm less into it, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know why. I probably watch more of the Best Picture nominees and all that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know. The short answer is no, and the medium answer is I bet that if you're getting close to like getting nominated or something, it's kind of a level that you don't understand until you get there.
Right. Yeah.
And there's all kinds of mystery to it from my position, from my vantage point right now. And once you get there, you're either like, oh, now I understand and I like it, or now I understand and I don't like it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, that kind of, that balance. It's, I can imagine it's different when you're, in consideration or just in the biz in general. Like, that's what I'm always interested to see. Like, is this something you really care about, or, but, as you mentioned, Matt Walsh, like we asked him about it, and, it's obviously you want to win if you're nominated, it's awesome to be nominated, but, it's is what it is. But,
you're sitting there. I mean, you just have to be thinking like, okay, I have something prepared. Did I waste my time preparing anything?
Right, exactly.
Like you said, like if you don't get it, you have a camera in your face. So what's your disappointed but happy for someone else face?
Right,
guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like, I don't know if I'd be able to plan any kind of face. My face does what it does, and I kind of don't have control over it. So
Yeah.
I wonder what would happen.
It's just like, well, this is what you're gonna get. I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be nice if in hindsight you were like, I was really happy for that person.
Yeah. I genuinely wanted them to win. I did not want to win. Well,
They're better. They're better than me.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's like if you prepare something and you don't end up needing it, but then if you feel you're not going to win, so you don't prepare and then you end up winning, it's like, oh, well, I should have done that.
Although that makes for some of the best one, like Kieran Culkin's Critics' Choice Award speech. That was so endearing.
Yeah, I know. It was like, just from the heart and just like it was, just say what's on your mind right in that moment. So, for me, I mean, I've always lately I think I burnt myself out from like Oscars and stuff. I enjoy them and we talk about them on the show and stuff. It's just I like wanted to watch every single movie that's nominated, and I'll still watch all the Best Picture nominees like you said, but it's just like there's so many, and then there's TV shows I want to watch, and it's just like such a balance, so much content out there, man.
So much. And I guess I kind of naturally get drawn to things that don't get nominated. Which honestly leads me to like my pick for this. Like picking Bottle Rocket was kind of I think I just went back to like the degree of difficulty of doing that in your first movie seems really high.
Yeah.
In going back and looking at all of Wes Anderson's stuff, it's the one that I rewatched the most. It's the first one that I saw. Like I saw it when it first came out on VHS and somehow was in my small town.
Yeah.
But I'm just like even the seams that aren't quite covered up, or the things that may not have aged well, or if you were making the movie today, these things would be different. I can't help but have like a sentimentality toward that. I really enjoy. I really enjoyed rewatching it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there because his films, I feel like I have to be in the right mindset to watch them. Because sometimes I'll just, I'll start one and then turn it off just because I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. Like I really enjoy, what he does. I enjoy his work. It's just, but this one, like I can turn it on and just watch it. And, it's not one of those where I have to fully pay attention. I mean, not that all his films are, you have to pay attention, but I don't know. Yeah. For me, I always have to be in a certain mood for his movies, but
there's like you kind of have to, like, I feel like someone has said there's a dollhouse miniature feel to his movies. Like you're getting shrunk down and you're entering another realm where everything is like perfectly placed and manicured and curated and tailored, which is incredible. I mean, the filmmaking, the attention to detail is nothing short of breathtaking. If you're not in the mood for it, you're probably like, why did I put this on? This deserves like 100% attention. And it's not to say that Bottle Rocket doesn't. It's just I feel like it's the least. And again, there's a ton of attention to detail. But it's the least. They haven't reached that level of like of Dollhouse Miniature.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything that diminishes it because it really is my favorite Wes Anderson movie, and I don't want that to make it seem like I don't like the other movies. I like a lot of the other movies. Although that one article that came out, what was it, in the Times like 10 years ago, that talks about his shift when he stops writing with Owen Wilson, starts writing with Noah Baumbach. You remember that?
Yeah.
And that totally changed my opinion, because then you start looking at like From Life Aquatic on, specifically with that one and Darjeeling, where 2/3 of the movie, everyone's living this dollhouse miniature life, and then there's a cataclysmic event that in a very jarring way brings them back to reality. But then like the last 10 minutes, everyone just goes back to the way that they were. Did they learn anything?
Yeah.
Bottle Rocket doesn't have that, and I love it for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it has the characters do change, and they, have that, it's overused, but character development is a huge
and the
thing.
consequences.
Yeah.
Like at the very end, Dignan's in jail.
Right. Yeah.
And even if he hasn't learned anything and he's still saying like, I don't know, give these like belt buckles to Mr. Henry and the guys, no hard feelings. It's like, well, yeah, maybe you didn't change and maybe you're not the smartest. You're clearly not the smartest character, but you're in jail. So you faced consequences, and
Right.
that you have to respect.
Well, and I love how just lighthearted it is. Like, it's not like a somber, somber come ending where it's like, oh, he's in jail and he didn't get the girl and, all this. Like, it's just like he's still hopeful about it. He even jokes about, all right, I'm breaking out now. Like, where's that grappling hook,
Yeah.
And this is, I think, one of Owen Wilson's best performances. Like, it's the quirkiest I think he's been in a movie.
To come out of the gates like that.
Yeah.
How crazy. I mean, I would think like if someone put me in a position where I'm like the first or second person in an indie, what I respect maybe the most about that movie is they are not dumbing it down. If you remade that today, you could point to so many parts of the movie where crucial information comes out, character development information, and it is thrown away so casually.
Yeah.
Literally as people are like walking away or you don't see their faces. The two that come out the most, that stuck out the most to me, is early on when Anthony is leaving the sanitarium, the mental hospital. And it's a super wide shot from Dignan's point of view, and the doctor goes, I mean, you could barely hear it. That's there's a couple things where it's like, is it ADR or was the sound just terrible on the day?
Right.
But the doctor's like, don't try to save everyone, Anthony. And you barely hear it. And you're like, that's the like number one clearest character trait about Anthony. And then the other one that Dignan drops is when they get in a fight because he stole the mom's earrings. Dignan says, he's like, why don't we steal anything from you? You ever think of that? And Dignan gets offended, turns around, and as he's walking, you don't see his mouth. He says, there's nothing to steal from my mom and Craig.
Yeah.
And that's the clearest take that you get from Dignan about what his, like, that's the closest look, and it is self-aware. And to, like, also in rewatching, I'm like, oh, this is a movie about class.
Right.
Way more than I realized.
Yes.
Like, Dignan, it's class and risk tolerance. Obviously, everyone's trying to find themselves, and a lot of people focus on that. But Bob is so rich and from the upper class that he'll take any risk. He's growing a crop of marijuana plants in his parents' backyard. Like, his parents don't give a fuck. They're not even in the picture. Future man just wants to beat the crap out of him. But Bob's like, whatever, it's all part of my life.
Yeah.
Belongs to a country club, doesn't even golf, whatever. Anthony clearly comes from money because they rob his house, but he reveals that like he's sick of that lifestyle and doesn't want, literally checked himself into a mental hospital because he is so lost and exhausted with the life that he leads. So he has some ambition, but in taking himself out of that class, he understands the risk. He just happens to need to save people. But then Dignan is from a lower class, and so he has to assume risk in order to make something of himself. And that comment, literally in rewatching it, that comment, I was like, holy crap. I'd never thought of it in terms of class before. And maybe that's why I respect that movie the most. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that is a great take because, I mean, it's very subtle. We don't hear much of it. I mean, even the fact of him being in the, nut house as they call it in the movie, like, we don't really fully understand why he's there. I mean, obviously, he seems lost, but you mentioned how he's there for exhaustion. He tells that to his little sister, and she's like, "What are you exhausted about?" This little girl's asking, "What are you exhausted about?"
Your life. His sister Rosie. When did Grace become so cynical? God, there's so many good quotes in this movie.
I know.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, you're fine. Just again, I can't stress enough just how great Owen Wilson is in this movie, and I mean everyone really. I mean, you got obviously Luke Wilson, his brother, the guy who plays Bob. What's I don't even know his name.
Robert Musgrave. I think.
There you go. And then you get the surprise cameo from James Caan is even in this. Like, it's just like, whoa.
I mean, I guess like if you score someone from The Godfather for your first indie, you might have a higher chance at success. And I know the story of like the short that they made and how it attracted attention and helped,
I guess
pave the way for the feature.
Let's. What do you know about that? Because for those who don't know, I mean this came from a short that came out like I believe 2 years prior, and then it got attention.
Yeah, and it's just the robbery of the bookstore. I believe. Yeah, it's like 9 minutes long or something like that. Which I remember when I first learned that, and then I thought about the feature. Like if you had a short, Thunder Road is another great example of like a short that gets turned into a feature that is even better than the short. Like that's not easy to do.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of, I understand how it's not a proven method because obviously there's like 1,000 ways to succeed and a million ways to fail. But to me, that feels like going backwards because even if you have the character in mind, you have to create so many more characters and you have to develop so much more. It seems like kind of you have to work in reverse if you do the short first and then you're like, oh shit, we got funding. Now we have to do a feature. That was one of the first times I gained even more respect for Bottle Rocket. I'm like, what? This was just that section?
Yeah, because it's like, we had an idea for, this little scene essentially what the short is, and now we have to build around that and figure out why they are doing what they're doing and all that. What was it? I don't know. Do you know what was the short comedy too, or was it more serious?
Yeah, because it's like a 9. I think if I'm remembering correctly, and obviously we could look it up, but we won't bore people with like the clacking. But I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, it's like 9 minutes of them like getting ready for the heist and doing the heist.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just the robbery in the bookstore and then leaving or there's some stuff that was cut out. But I do know that it's like the bookstore is the thing. So they're in the car and they're planning it. They put the tape on the nose.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, maybe I'm not, someone could correct. Yeah. Like I've been, on and off obsessed with this movie for, I guess, 25 years?
Yeah, 96, yeah.
That's the main reason that I picked it. In full disclosure, I would have picked Amélie, but I saw that you'd already done it.
Yeah.
I'm a dual French citizen thanks to my mom.
Oh, okay.
I saw that. She's from the north of France, which is kind of like the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I was visiting. I was on my semester abroad there, and I went up to visit my family, and my cousins who were like older and younger than me were at my aunt and uncle's house, and my aunt's like, "What are you guys going to do tonight?" And they're like, we're going to take Tim to go see a movie or something. They're like, "Oh yeah, what's playing?" And they go, "Well, he hasn't seen Amélie," and my aunt rolled her eyes and goes, "Yeah, it's a great film." Because it had been in theaters for 6 months and everyone talked about it nonstop. Yeah. And, my cousin, I love my cousins. They're the best. They're northern French boys. It'd be like, my cousins in the Midwest, where I'm from in the U.S. And we went and it was like, I'm sitting in between them and I'm like softly crying and they're just like checking their phones and not caring.
Right. Yeah.
Sighing loudly as I'm like whimpering softly and be like, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would be, watching like Star Wars with someone who's never seen Star Wars and where I've seen it a zillion times. And it's just like,
does it make you cry?
I'm not at this point anymore. I'm the guy on the phone, like, just like, yeah.
Would one of them make you cry? Which of the 9 would make you cry?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, there's, Empire. I mean, they lose. I'm trying to think of like the more dramatic moments. I mean, I love the scene of, in A New Hope when Luke is looking off into the sun, the 2 sunsets, and, he's that music playing. It's just always like he's longing for more, and it just always, gets me a little bit. But Actually, one of the more recent ones, Rogue One, when she gets the message from her father, and Felicity Jones, Felicity Jones, she just the emotion she's conveying in that scene, I'm just like, it's getting me.
Okay, so 3 of the 9 movies would make you cry.
Yeah, I'm sure if I really sat down, I'm sure I could find moments that it would make me cry. All right, I'm not the guy on the phone. All right, I'm weeping through all Star Wars. All right.
But obviously I didn't want to pick that, and then I was like, I could pick a classic, but I keep going back to Bottle Rocket. It meant a lot. It felt like the first kind of like hip indie movie that found its way into my hands through.
Yeah.
My buddy Keith was like, you got to watch this. He also turned me on to Brain Candy by Kids in the Hall.
Had you seen this? Had you seen other Wes Anderson movies before this one, or did you see this when it?
Rushmore hadn't even come out yet.
Oh, okay. So you were right there when this came out.
Yeah. Somehow it ended up like I got the VHS maybe from like Disc Replay or something like that, and it was like the first movie that I was bringing to my dad. That I remember my dad being like, "Whoa, what is this?" Which made me feel, he introduced me to so much stuff growing up that and he loved. Another classic throwaway line that reveals a ton is when they're first planning out with Dignan has the map out and they bought the gun and the gun is on the table and Bob keeps playing with it. And then he says that he paid for the gun, and that's like a big reveal. And Dignan's like, say it again. And then he's like, he's out. You're out too. I don't think I'm in either. He storms off and he's in the kitchen. So you're just on Bob. So you're just hearing off camera them talking. And Dignan says, "Look at this kitchen. How does an asshole like Bob get such a great kitchen?"
Yes, I actually have that. I have this written down in my notes. How's an asshole like Bob get such a great kitchen?
Yeah,
I had to write that one down because
my dad was like, he laughed. My dad laughed until my dad passed away. My dad was laughing at that. And anytime we were in a place where he's like, someone is an asshole and they have something nice, instead of being like, "Ugh, I don't like this," or he would just say that comment without singling anyone out or anything. He'd just be like, "How does an asshole like Bob get such a kitchen?" and it made me laugh so hard because again, that's the class thing. It's like Dignan is like, because Bob is objectively the dumbest character,
right?
In the show. It maybe Clay,
and the richest,
future man's friend, but the richest. And so, to like the class wise, like someone at a lower class being like, "This guy just inherited all this stuff. He's a fucking idiot."
Exactly.
Life isn't fair. And that's such. Dignan's attitude is actually kind of commendable because he's consistently being an optimist.
Right. And I love his, sort of adolescent, kind of behavior. Like everything's, this all seems like just a big game to him, and it's all this minuscule stuff, but it's like, oh, we're going to break you out of this nut house, and, gives him the, ties the blankets together so he can escape and does the caw, and the reflecting lights so he can see him. And
it's like, you paid the janitor smart. He's like, you didn't pay the janitor. And
it's
like he doesn't need the full story because he's creating a story himself that is just like helping him, feel better. Like he puts wind under his own sails in those moments.
Yeah.
Which is really, he's making the best of it despite being the person who has the least.
Right. And he feels like yeah, and then like you said earlier about risk and things, he's willing to risk because he doesn't have anything. He has literally nothing to lose. So it's like, and he feels like this is the only way, to get ahead. And but I love that they're able to do it in such a comedic and lighthearted light. It's not like you don't necessarily feel sorry for him, it's just the situation they're in, and this is how it plays out. And I love like I said, the minuscule little tasks they do. Like they rob Anthony's parents' house just as like a practice run, and the big heist they do is robbing a bookstore and get like $500 for that.
And then a cold storage facility.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's
Yeah, there's
why?
nothing. There's one safe. Oh god.
How much cash would be at a cold storage facility? Like, there's not uh customer
Right.
exchange there. You wouldn't think so, and stuff like
And we
that.
never find out. There's so many
Right.
things in the
Yeah.
movie that we never find out about, which I think is like the opposite of pandering. You're forced to put all these things together,
Yeah.
and at the like we never also Mr. Henry, James Caan's whole character and their crew. We see that party where everyone, it's like right before the big cold storage robbery, and everyone's hanging out, and there's all these like kind of ritzy people, but it seems like they're not in a big town in Texas.
Right.
Who are these people?
Yeah.
He's so connected, but he's a thief.
Right.
And you never quite get his whole backstory. And I really think if something like this were made today, there are so many parts of the movie that would be over-explained to not pander, but like make an audience feel safe. Like at the beginning, you'd see Anthony would be sitting across from a doctor, and the doctor would be like, Anthony, you have a desire to save people. You need to not do that. Are you feeling exhausted because you checked in here for exhaustion? And Anthony would be like, no, I'm feeling better. I got to go do something now. And then he'd escape, and maybe he'd get caught. Maybe he wouldn't. But like,
yeah, there'd be these little exposition lines, to fill
and
in.
Mr. Henry, someone would have their phone out and they'd be like, I Googled him and like, you can't find anything, or I found a couple things like that. Like they would just explain it to make an audience feel safe. And this just like barrels through, and I don't know if it's like, what it feels like. Have you read Confederacy of Dunces?
I can't say I have.
So that's
Tell me
John
about
Kennedy
it.
Toole's like like ultimate posthumous work of
Okay.
art, and it's this great novel that's set in New Orleans, and it's this really heralded work. But he committed suicide, and it wasn't published until his mom found the manuscript and published it after his death.
Oh wow.
Like
Yeah.
10 years after his death or something like that.
Right.
And then after that, they found this other manuscript that he was going to submit to a contest when he was that he wrote when he was 15, and it's called the Neon Bible. And it's raw, and it's not as structured as Confederacy of Dunces, but the prose is there, the all the brilliance and talent is there, and it feels like that feels like a parallel. Bottle Rocket is better than Neon Bible, but
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is I can't tell like how much of this was a first time feature filmmaker finding himself, and how much of it was writing with Owen Wilson and purposefully being like, don't tell them that. We don't need to do that. We just need one line about this. It's enough to explain this character or this dynamic. Move on.
Yeah.
I don't like. I
Yeah,
would love to
like,
know.
yeah, no, definitely, yeah, because do I explain this further? Do we just trust the audience? And that's what, like you were saying with pandering, like it's like I love when filmmakers trust the audience and to be, put the dots together. It's like not everything has to be spoon fed to us. Like we can figure it out. There's some, there's casual film watchers who just give me, I want to know exactly what the story is, and I need to know. But yeah, I like how it's very non-pandering, and you can put them together like with Luke Wilson with the nut house. You then realize that he's obviously been longing for something when he meets Inez, the housekeeper at the motel, and this seems like that was that missing thing for him. And Owen Wilson, he's been longing to have a higher status, and he might be going about it the wrong way, but that's what he's longing for. And then Bob, seems like the relationship with his brother is what is the theme regarding his character.
Yeah, he wants acceptance from his family, and Anthony's lost, directionless, and wants love is the answer to him. And Dignan wants, he wants a team. He wants identity. He wants to feel like, he's on the path to success with someone. And again, class-wise, that's like, you can't survive alone if you're from the lower class. Like, you need community, you need a team. Whereas Bob has no direction, you know.
Yeah.
And it isn't until the end where he's like, I guess I want my family, I guess, because that's the thing that he'd been lacking. And Anthony wanted direction, and love was the thing that was providing it. It all feels like it's endearingly, well, compared to his other movies, someone might, like, you know, oversimplify and be like, it's not complete. You know, it feels incomplete compared to the other movies where the resolutions are all very, like, you know, like you think of Tenenbaums, like that, like everyone by Van Morrison playing at the end, and you're like, oh, all the threads have come together.
Yep.
We found some resolution, and even if there isn't resolution, it's like, really, there's resolution.
Yeah.
Whereas Bottle Rocket has, like, maybe it's his most, like, human,
right?
Movie, because the dollhouse miniature feel isn't there yet, and there's less explanation, and there's less resolution, or even the resolution is like, well, they're not out of the woods. Like, Anthony's dating Inez. Like, they just slept together. How many relationships do you know work after that is the beginning point?
Yeah.
And well, Bob, it's like, Future Man's going to keep beating the shit out of you, and Dignan, you have a record now. Like, you're fucked.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not going anywhere. I think you said 1 month down, 23 to go. Like, it's just, yeah. And, you know, even, you know, it seems like, yeah, if this movie were made today or something, like, you know, when he found out that Inez does love him, you know, he would have went off to her, and they would have rode off into the sunset together. But we actually never see her again after he calls her and confirms with her that she does love him. Yeah, and it's really about these three guys and their friendship, and each one of them has to kind of resolve for themselves what they need, you know, and it. And I appreciate that Owen Wilson doesn't really see him being in prison as a loss. You know, it's just
he has like meaning now. Like, he has an identity. He gets he's like proud of the fact that he's in jail, which also, coming from my hometown, I was like, woof, that always hit too close to home, because that was also about the time when, like, people were kind of joining gangs in my hometown, or some people were finding identity in the beginning of a path where you're like, this is not going to turn out good. But where is
that hometown?
Joliet, Illinois.
Okay, is that
prison town? I see you wearing some Michigan gear.
Yep, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, or not from Detroit. Suburbs, you know, suburban, but in Tampa, Florida now. So,
nice. Okay.
Yeah. You know, it's weather's good. Other things suck, but
it's not Michigan weather though.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, Joliet's like a tiny Detroit.
Okay.
With no suburbs, really.
Yeah.
There's a couple like farming communities outside, but it's not a Chicago suburb. Like,
so it's
the suburbs have grown to meet it. But growing up, it was a prison town, you know, bottomed out steel mill town. Yeah. There were, you know, 4 active gangs.
Wow.
When you're, you know, leaving junior high, going into high school, that's when different people have, when you look up, right? Because we have, you know, obviously a vertically inclined society, people would look up, and if the examples above you have a low ceiling, you need the imagination to dream past that. And, you know, not everyone has that, no matter what class you're in. But I would see a lot of people growing up that, I mean, this is all in hindsight, obviously.
Right.
But you'd be like, where's so-and-so, you know? And you're like, they dropped out, or like they're in this gang, or like they moved with their dad to this other town because they got in trouble with blah, blah, blah. And
oh man, yeah.
But then you would run into people and they'd be like, you know, I'm somebody, I did time. And to them, that was identity. That was like this is me, and it means something, and it might mean a negative thing to you, but it's a positive thing to me. And and obviously, like, they didn't do hard crime. They robbed a cold storage facility, but that part of Dignan really was like a little chilling and resonated really strongly, despite the fact that he's laughing it off and they're eating burgers and he's
Right. He
giving them belt buckles.
he has what's the disease they say that he has?
CRS.
CRS. Yeah.
Can't remember shit.
Can't remember.
You got it
shit.
now.
Yeah.
You got CRS right now.
I do. I literally had CRS momentarily. CRS. So there we go. But yeah, it's interesting, like the status thing, like because growing up in school or something, if you got detention, someone be I got detention, like it's almost like a bragging thing, like oh, he must be cool because he breaks the rules and all that. How did you get out of that in your hometown? Like what was just your ambition of being in showbiz or?
No, I knew my same buddy Keith, who introduced me to these movies, also introduced me to improv because his older stepbrother was doing it in Chicago and was going to college in Chicago.
Yeah.
And so we would go up once or twice a year when I was in high school, and went to like Improv Olympic, and it blew my mind. So I was like, I want to be there, but I was a homebody and my sister was older. So I knew what colleges we couldn't afford.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was already like, well, I can only apply to schools that will essentially give me a full ride, which limited my options. Because most schools, they don't, even if it's a full ride, you still owe like $7,000 a year, which we couldn't afford. So I ended up at Loyola in Chicago, kind of to do improv. But the main thing, I was a homebody. I would have gone back home while figuring things out. And my dad was just straight up like, when I was like a junior or senior in college, was like, you're not coming back here.
Yeah.
So you're just not like,
yeah.
If you try to come back, you don't have a place to stay in our house.
Oh man.
It's like, and it didn't.
That was for protection, right? I mean, that was for your,
It's like, I don't want this for you. You're not coming back here. And that, but I still loved it. I would come home on the weekends and visit and hang out with friends. And I still love it. I adore my hometown. I memorized every corner of it. I think it's got so much character.
Are your parents still out there? Oh, I'm sorry. You said your dad passed.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have family?
Mom. Yeah. And there's a lot of like, cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff like that. I really do love it. I think it's, when you get to know places like that, like it takes a lot of judgment out of you because like things move slowly and people live differently, and that's okay. And there's a lot of good people in all kinds of places. I'm sure you know that in Tampa.
It's sometimes it's just about, a lot of times it's just dealing the card you're dealt, sort of thing. I'm glad you didn't get involved in too many things and were able to.
I don't know if you could tell, I wasn't exactly the prime target for gang recruitment.
You never know. You could have been like a decoy, or something.
I'm sure I was without knowing it, but I'm sure I was. But like, I don't. It's kind of a satiric little punk.
Yeah,
not a smart ass because I wasn't big enough to be a smart ass.
Yeah.
But my main thing was like, I just wanted to make everybody laugh. And so, I didn't have the nerve to join a gang. Maybe if I had, I would have. Who knows?
Yeah. You never know. I mean, maybe now, maybe you've built up enough courage to join a
gang at 40. It's always fat that there are a couple other things that like, I definitely want to touch on and want to hear your take on it. The first one is probably like, I rewatch this once a year, but I think the last couple of years, every time I started and I get to this point, I have a little tension in me for how, and then it goes away, and I'll explain why. There's a little tension in me for how Anthony and Inez get together.
Okay.
Which I think if you were remaking it today, you probably wouldn't have a guy following around a housekeeper.
Yeah.
Probably not.
It's
Maybe you would do it differently, probably. But that, like, your Spidey sense, your 2022 Spidey sense, like, pops up a little bit.
exactly. Yeah.
But then she fucking bodies him when when Rocky's translating, and she says that he's trash in the wind. So all of a sudden, and this is, I think this is the beauty of also not pandering, not trying to explain everything and make everything so safe in that movie and letting it play out, is maybe it seems like Anthony was taking advantage of her and her position, but by the end it's like Inez was like, I'm gonna fuck this piece of meat because I know he's gonna check out in a couple days, and this town is a little boring. I go to that bar, I meet the same old people, and like, yeah, I'm gonna have fun with this dude. And then when he tries to say that we're in love, she's like, you're a piece of trash floating in the wind, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a fucking body slam.
Yeah,
the agency that they give her in that moment, but you have to wait for it, is, I think, pretty impressive and kind of ahead of its time. That's my take.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a punch in the gut, because you're definitely not expecting that. I mean, the translator, does say to try to smooth it over. It sounds better in Spanish.
Yeah.
Like trying to make it seem, like it's, she didn't mean it that way, but yeah, it was definitely, a punch in the gut. So the tension part you're speaking of, so is it mainly that it's kind of that he's following her around and that, like, that's the tension part for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
I wonder if I saw something that came out today that was. I wonder how people would react to it.
Yeah.
Not that, I don't do that every time I watch movies, but with a movie that I cherish so much, I
right.
think that.
It's hard, yeah, especially when you watch movies now, yeah, with like you said, 2022 lens, you're watching it with. So it's like it's different now. But for me, I think it was handled well. At first, it's kind of like, is this gonna get a little creepy or whatever? Like, is he coming on a little too strong? But I watched it last night, as a refresher, and I feel, like I said, it was handled well. I think he, slowly went about it, just tried to get to know her a little bit, and helped her out with the laundry and the folding of the clothes and all that. Like, that kind of lessened the, like, creepiness of it. For me,
he's just lost. He's directionless. He doesn't know what else to do, so he's doing that. It kind of reminds me. I don't know if you've gone back and watched Cheers, but Cheers is kind of ahead of its time. Like, Cheers, like, misses very rarely with its the way that they present certain people. Like, however, they'll make Sam the bad guy in Act 1. He'll do something even worse and double down in Act 2, and they'll really wait until the end of Act 3 to have him redeem himself and learn something. And I think these days people are really worried about it. And so they hedge their bets in Act 1 and in Act 2. And so the resolution in Act 3, or the lesson that the characters learn in Act 3, whether it's TV or film, is not as potent because you haven't seen them do something wrong, make it worse, and then learn the lesson. It's like they do something wrong, and they're kind of like, but I'm not a bad guy. And then in Act 2, they're like, it could get worse. But again, like, my heart's in the right place. And then Act 3, they're like, I learned something. It's like, well, you kind of knew the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't go down that too dark of a, whatever they did. Like, it's just like, something a little minor, and and then they learn. Righteous Gemstones, covers that, I think, very well. They're masterful at that. And
they're so underrated for that. They have been the entire time.
Yeah.
They have been for 15 years, and they don't get their credit for that.
Right. Yeah.
It's wild how are they so popular and underrated?
I don't know how that works. Yeah. That's
every once in a while, as a fan, I'll just be like around and be like, holy shit, I'm here. I'm on like, in one of their shows. It's fucking wild.
I know. I bet, man. I just showed we'll get back to Bottle Rocket in a second. I just want to talk about you a little bit. But showed my wife a clip. I totally forgot it was you who was in it. Better Call Saul. The whole the toilet. Oh my goodness, what a great scene. Were you a Breaking Bad fan before that?
Yeah.
Okay, so was that like amazing to get that call? Like,
yeah, and Odenkirk, like just a scene with Odenkirk, who has Chicago roots and was at Second City, and would come through Second City and like watch shows in the late 2000s, early 2010s when I was doing shows in Chicago and Second City. So that was obviously, it was really cool. Also, two things. One, that's the most fun audition I've ever had, because I got the email and they're like, you're auditioning for Better Call Saul. And I was like, oh, cool. Wow. The spinoff. Like, I can't believe this is like, because there was a lot of hype. Most spinoffs kind of get like shit on when they first get announced. And that was the first one that I remember people being like, fuck yes, it's going to be awesome. So I get that email. I'm like, oh, cool. And then I scroll down, and before I read the sides, it was like, please also prepare a voice for the talking toilet. I'm like, what? And I click on the script and I'm like reading down, and I like get to the toilet part and I'm like, oh cool. So when I was auditioning, I went in and I'm doing the scene, and then they had me step off camera, and I would be like, they had me step off camera and be like, gosh, you're big. Oh, you're so big. And the Bialy Thomas casting, they're just behind the camera and they're laughing. I was like, is that okay? And they're like, yeah, that's good. And then it was weird. Like the ones that you get sometimes, Gemstones is the same way, where I looked at the script and I'm just like, oh, well, it's clear. It's clear to me why it's funny. So here's how I would do it. And maybe that's not happening to other people. It definitely, sometimes you get a script and you're like, I don't get why this is funny. I don't have a take on this. I'll do my best. But that one, I was like, well, I know how to make it funny. Here's my thing. Take it or leave it, And then you get it and you're like, it's not, you just feel like, yeah, that feels right. I did a good job.
Right. Yeah.
It's not arrogant. It's just straight up like, oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. Sometimes you'll do well and you won't get it. And you're like, that's weird. I thought,
that's what happened there.
Yeah.
That's
2% of the time when you're like affirmed for your choices. But the other thing is, when we were doing it, the third take in the super wide, one of the grommets, or is that what they're called? The little the steel grommets on the tarp, right? They're called grommets, right?
Yes, grommets.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that, or whatever. I forget what they're called. As I'm pulling the tarp off, a total fluke. I mean, like a 1 in a million chance. It caught. I mean, those things are like this thick, right?
Yeah.
And the tarp is like that thick, so there's barely any of it sticking out. Caught the top of the toilet. Like the toilet cover, right, on the tank, caught it, and I'm just supposed to whip the tarp off. I did it 2 times. Third time, whip the tarp off. It flips the top of the toilet tank off, and it shatters on the ground.
Oh my God!
And they didn't have another toilet.
Oh geez.
And Bob knew what the problem was, because everyone's like, fuck, you gotta be kidding me. And he's like, they should have taped it down. He grabs me, like in one motion, he grabs me, puts his arm around my shoulder, starts walking me out of the garage, and goes, it's not your fault. It's not even your fault.
Yeah.
Which, if you're a guest star, it could easily go the other way.
Yeah.
Someone could be like, what the fuck? All right, I'm going to my trailer. Call me when this is fixed. Because it took them an hour to drive around Albuquerque and find a replacement toilet.
Oh my goodness.
Because we'd already established the wide that they had to match it.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, you had to find the right. I was gonna say there's not like a Home Depot you can go to real quick around there, but yeah, I guess if it had to be this specific.
They went to a Home Depot and they didn't have it, so they had to go to a Lowe's. They didn't have it, and then they're still driving. So, oh man, it was a mess. And he just took me outside at whatever house we were filming, and we sat on this little porch area, coffee table, and just talked about like Chicago for an hour and
that's
then
awesome.
Found the toilet and was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, no, that's great for the lead actor to be doing that and like making you feel at ease, like
making sure that, because like, what if everyone like gets pissed at me, my confidence is going to crater. You're a guest star,
right?
Like the hardest job on shows like that honestly is the guest star. Once the show is up and running, the main characters largely know what's going on. There are challenges, yes, but like the guest actors are coming in trying to guess the tone.
Sure. Yeah.
And if they've made a choice and they show up and that's not the right choice, it is tough to hear someone be like, nope, that's wrong. You got to do something different, because you're like, fuck, I booked it, I'm here, I prepared, and now I'm being told to do something different. It can really shake you up. And
because you don't have that chemistry, that they've already built with each other. It's that's,
you don't have that like that vocabulary, that like that fluency in the language of like the small talk of like, no, try this, the comfort of knowing it's going to be okay. So I really like, I was so appreciative of that. That was really,
I'm sure that's awesome. Yeah, great.
Learned from it too. If there's a guest star who's like nervous, don't leave them hanging. It's not going to help if you're like, this fucking idiot. It's going to help if you're like, even if they're not doing a good job, it's going to help if you're like, good job. You boost their confidence, and then they'll make a different choice, and then you're like, there we go.
Exactly. It's only going to help everybody rather than it's like it. You could then screw up scenes, and it's just going to take longer, and it's just like, no, just like I said, it's only going to help if you're just supportive and just move on. Let's do this, team. Let's do it. Who directed that episode? Do you remember?
I'd have to go back and look.
Okay. Well, I'll look.
Yeah.
But
she was wonderful. She was fantastic, and she wasn't upset. It was more like set deck and props people that are like, knew that they were fucked, and no one wants to be the person who's it didn't fall on anyone's shoulders. It was just, those moments are when you're
literally or metaphorically, like the toilet didn't fall on anyone's shoulders, and
yes,
okay. Well, that's good. And then now you were mentioning how Inez says she's he's trash, blowing in the wind or whatever. I got CRS again. CRS, is that the word? Did I forget again?
Can't remember shit.
Can't remember shit. There we go. CRS.
Henry, I said that.
What do you think is her flip though, that then says she does love him? Like what is her flip?
Well, it's definitely taking a chance,
Yeah.
It's a very romantic, optimistic portrayal that you can have a connection with someone when you both feel lost. They're young, obviously, like they're both kind of in their mid-20s, it seems.
Yeah, I think he said he's 26 or something, or something like that. Yeah.
So it's a very romantic, like I always looked at it as like, oh, what a beautiful connection that they have. You could, if you looked at it cynically, like she's in a small town, she wants something different, he's this exciting guy that comes through, and not that she takes advantage of him, but she takes advantage of the fact that he is interested in her to have a little fling, which is obviously her prerogative, and then she shuts it down when he wants more and she doesn't. And the soundtrack is another thing, because Over and Done With is just one of the most perfect music drops ever in a movie. And it fucking hits every time I watch the movie, even if I'm not really paying attention, it's in the background. Man, when the first note of that, after Rocky is like, tell Anthony I love him, and Dickens like, all right, man, okay.
Yeah.
And then and that guitar hits, and I'm like, fuck. Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Steals the car, and Anthony's like crushed, and he's leaving, and that he's given the tip to Inez, and then it lands on Inez after she has just like bodied this dude and been like, you're fucking trash, I fucked you because I could. And then it lands on her, and she's at her cart, and she just has that little emotion. It's so beautifully played, and then she turns the music off, and you're like, so it's complicated, right? It's human.
Yeah, right.
She felt this. It was a fling, but there was something there. The attention that this guy gave, there was a sweetness to it, right? It could be worse. Her flings could be with someone who's less attentive, who's less sweet. And then when he leaves, she's like, maybe there was something there.
Yeah.
And And for her to clock his generosity, they're staying at that motel. They don't have a lot of money.
Right.
He gives her a $500 tip like that. And again, that's not really, you kind of have to think about that at the end of the movie to be like, why does she say that? Why does she come back? Why does she want to pursue something with him?
Yeah.
I find that so.
Yeah, because it's not like he's trying to buy her love. He thinks he's never going to see her again. I'm just going to give her that and move on. Hopefully it'll help her,
She sees 3 dudes sleeping in a dingy motel. She knows that they don't come from money, and
right.
$500 as a goodbye. I don't know. There's something kind of. It's just weirdly romantic. I just find it so endearing how fucking weird certain parts of the movie are.
I know, it's so quirky, and yeah, it's it is it's comedy, it's crime, but it does have romance. Obviously, it's got that romantic side, which is just a beautiful touch to the movie.
Are there parts like in terms of laughs that you get from the movie? Are there parts that like get you every single time?
I mean, the kitchen, how does an asshole like this have a kitchen like this? When he tells Owen Wilson about what his sister said, he said, what's she done with her life that's so great?
Man, nothing.
There was a few others I meant to write down when I was watching last night, but yeah, those two for sure. How about you?
Definitely the kitchen one. Speaking of Grace, there is just the one other like huge character trait that gets dropped and like blown past is when Grace is like, she's like, I'm here with an associate. She's like, Dignan. He's like, yes, Dignan. Like, why don't you like Dignan? She goes, he's a liar. And for a kid to just drop that and be like, he's a liar. And then you see little things where like Dignan is like stretching the truth or telling little white lies to get what he wants.
Yep.
And you excuse it or you overlook it because he's so quirky and so fun, and he's the only one with direction. So you kind of naturally are like, following his character.
Yeah.
But back to the funny things. Another like tossed away line is when Future Man shows up, and Dignan goes, Dignan turns to Anthony and goes, "That's Future Man," and Anthony goes, "Yeah, I know." That always fucking gets me. Yeah, I know. Like, of course, it's Bob. They're friends. It's
right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, did we mention that is the other Wilson brother, folks? That is Andrew Wilson, Future Man. So there you go.
I saw him once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From afar.
I went to this like Hollywood Shorts Festival or something. I did this short film that Tony Hale was in, and this is right when that Veep episode had come out. So it was like early 2014, and we're sitting in this Luke Wilson short film played before ours, and we sat down, and I was so like disoriented, and I turned to someone to say something, and I was like, something in my periphery is off.
Yeah.
And I turned, and Luke Wilson and Andrew Wilson are just staring at me like, don't look at us. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. And in my head, I was like, that's Future Man. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
I love it. Oh man, that's great. Have you ever met anyone else in this film? James Caan or
no? God, I would die if I met Owen Wilson. Meeting Owen Wilson was like, I'm a huge Tom Petty fan. It'd be the same thing if I had met Tom Petty. I'm like, I'm either going to be silent and respectful. I'm either going to be like, how you doing? Because I don't want to be a freak. Or I'm going to be like, at minute 25 of Bottle Rocket, you have a look to your brother Luke Wilson. Was that planned? Do you just turn into the biggest fucking nerd? And I'm like, that's always been my fear, is that I'm gonna nerd out so hard, and then people are gonna be like, you're you're a fanboy. Like, get away.
Well, that's when I do these interviews, like I try to like keep my cool and stuff, and like I like wanna ask certain things, but
Yeah.
I guess in this setting it works better than if you just meet them on the street and you start talking to them about in this scene.
Yeah. I think another big one is when the cold storage robbery has fallen apart and they're getting back in the elevator and Kumar goes, I blew it, I lost my touch. And Dignan yells, did you ever have a touch to lose, man? He's so mad. Yeah, we're like, he's like, who set off the alarm? It's a smoke alarm. Who set it off? It's because of all this fucking smoke.
Oh my God. Yes, I forgot about that. Yeah, that is brilliant. Did you ever have a touch to lose? That is brilliant.
There's so many, like, the lines are so committed to, I think honestly it's had this like, there are certain things where you're like, oh man, I didn't realize how profound of an effect that had on me. There are a lot bigger things, like I was a huge Chris Farley fan, and like Faulty Towers and W.C. Fields and like Brain Candy and Kids in the Hall, and like where I can track like, oh, I say things a certain way because that cadence is in my head.
Right.
But Bottle Rocket, like I just adore how they toss stuff away on like with emotional sincerity.
Right.
Dignan runs out and he's like, Bob's gone. He stole his car. Most people would be like, he stole his car.
Yeah.
They would hit the his. And it's like he doesn't do that. It's so to me it's so much funnier because it sticks with you because you stop and you're like, you have to think about it for a second so you absorb it more.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's there's
the other when he gets made fun of for having the yellow jumpsuit on by Future Man, and Dignan's like, I'm not always as confident as I look. He's like, did you see what he had on? Yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I even like when Inez first comes into the room, I realize this. I have been whistling a certain thing my whole life. Like if I'm just killing time or filling some noise, it just clicked this time when I watched it. Anthony's sitting on the bed when Inez is walking up, and it's just to fill time as like her cart enters the frame to make this shot less static. And he goes like that, and then it's cut off by her arrival. And I didn't realize for 25 years that is my like go-to filler noise if I have.
Oh wow! So like you just do that whistle and
that like really sent me in not a positive tailspin where I'm like, what else has this movie done?
Yeah, it's so crazy that we do certain things and then we realize the root of it. It's like, oh, that's why I do that, or that's got to be it's such like your mind is just blown. It's just like, what?
There's too many lines like that from this movie. And they all shed such a beautiful light. They're not played for punchlines. They're all played for like character.
Yeah.
Like when Dignan, this is another off-camera one that kills me. When they're on the bus and Dignan goes, driver, what's our ETA? And the driver goes, 7:30. Like even the driver is annoyed by this dude.
Yeah.
Because he's probably asked that like 7 times already.
Right. Yeah.
7:30. Yeah. Like it'd be like 7:30. It's ADR. It's off camera or whatever. And it's
there's such a thing. It's so specific in her tone that lets you again put the pieces together that he's probably asked this 100 times now. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad you picked this movie because it's just one of those that just I think can go under a lot of people's radar. I know it bombed at the box office, but then has become like a cult hit.
It did, right? Did it? Have, do you know like what kind of theatrical run it got?
It only I want to say it only was in like 49 theaters total or something. I read earlier, something like that, something very small. only made $500,000 at the box office. It made a budget of $5 million. So yeah, but yeah, I guess it still helped their career just because critics loved it, and you even had I think Scorsese listed it in his top 10 '90s movies. So yeah, you get that endorsement. I think you're doing pretty well for yourself.
Did it make Criterion Collection?
Yeah. It is in the Criterion Collection. So
like recently though, right? Didn't it? It's like
I think it was a more recent release, but yeah,
Veterans Committee selection or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? We were wrong. This was great.
Well, it makes me feel old when like classic movies or we're starting to call these movies classic movies when it's in the '90s. I feel so old. Like it's a classic movie. What? I get calling something an instant classic, but when you say classic, it makes it seem old. And 25 years ago, it's like crazy, man. But yeah, any final thoughts on Bottle Rocket?
I mean, I think the soundtrack is also that was such a gateway for me in my hometown. We would pause on the credits, write down the names before the soundtrack came out, write down the names of the songs, go to disc replay and ask the snobby, arrogant clerk, like, do you have this? And he'd be like, you've never heard of the band Love? And he'd be like, no. What? No. And he's like, here's the greatest hits. It's a double album. You probably won't like most of the songs. You're only looking for these two from Bottle Rocket. And you're like, okay, yeah, I am.
Of course I am.
Or that Proclaimers song.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
I definitely bought that Rolling Stones album with 2000 Man on it. Also perfect. 2000 Man, perfect music drop in that.
Oh man, before being able to just stream music, just buying a whole CD just to listen to one song.
That album,
those were the days.
No offense to Stones fans, that album, that's got to be their worst album.
Yeah, it's trash. It is trash. Mick Jagger, he might listen to this podcast. I think he might flip it on every now and then. So sorry, Mick. It wasn't your best outing. So
no, but that song is great, and with Mark Mothersbaugh's score, which is really, there's like Western themes in the score.
Yeah, the score, is great, and
it's like Ennio Morricone or something like that, or however, I always butcher his name, but
the
last cue when Dignan's walking away, which is a reprisal of when Dignan hits him with the blunt end of the screwdriver.
Oh right,
in the field, and the car's broken down. Like that's the first because Mothersbaugh brought back all these crazy instruments from South America or Central America or
and I feel like he continues to use that in his filmography, like that type of score, and the cinematography I wanted to mention too real quick. Robert Yeoman, he did all of Wes Anderson's movies after this. I love the red motel with the green grass backdrop. I just love the colors Wes Anderson always uses. It's just beautiful to look at. Camera,
there are four quick things camera wise. I'm looking at my notes now, but after the heist, they're on the lam, and Dignan, it's right before Dignan says, "On the run from Johnny Law, ain't no trip to Cleveland."
Yeah,
they're in a 2-shot, and Dignan says, "And also because he fired me," and it's the big reveal. And they're in a 2-shot, and he just swoops in like a banana swoop in and hits Dignan for that line, and it's whoa, that, and then it uses another angle. Yep. And then it bounces back to that angle and swoops out to catch Anthony walking away, and then it pushes in on Dignan. It's that's the stuff that when you're blocking things as an actor and someone has an idea, and if when you start to know a little bit more and you piece together like how things are going to look without fucking up your performance, because for a lot of, at first you're like, I can't think about that, it's going to fuck up my performance. But once you get a little more comfortable and understand like what the camera is going to do, something like that happens, you're like, this is going to look fucking sexy.
Yeah, absolutely.
that the entire sequence when Anthony sees Inez the first time with that song, so hot. Dignan alone in the field shooting off firecrackers.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think that's where you see, like the red motel with the green grass, and it's just, so nice to look at.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Dignan getting beat up inside while they're talking on the bench right outside the bar.
Oh, right. Yep.
Like, we're amigos and you cheated. Just started getting the shit kicked out of him. God, that's such a beautiful scene to be like, how are we going to do this? Are we going to go inside?
Right.
Like, you're like, no, let's literally use one setup and the whole thing will play out behind them. And you save like 8 hours. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing him up. He's like, what an incredible
absolutely
filmmaker.
Yeah. 100%. But yeah, so glad you picked it. And again, I big fan of Righteous Gemstones. Love your work in that. My wife made me say that our favorite line is when you are at Outback Steakhouse and you tell her to enjoy her Outback Steakhouse meal. Good day.
Good day.
It's just so.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Oh, we rewound it like 100 times just to hear that part. So thank you for the joy you have brought us. And again, now I'm just nerding out. When you were in Parks and Recreation, when you were the politician guy, terrific. And you just stare in a room.
Chris Pratt making fun of me.
Yep.
That was a good day. That was
Are you I see you have a lot of collaborations with Walton Goggins. Are you close to him, or is that just coincidence?
No, I mean, that was like it was a coincidence of Jake Szymanski directed the first John Bronco.
Okay.
Jonathan Kreisel did the second one. But the first one it was like last minute, like I got like 24-hour heads up. Jake reached out to me. He had directed me in this part of a campaign for AT&T for March Madness in like 2019, where I played this like really stupid sports commentator. It was every third commercial. Like, you get a lot of hate for stuff like that. It's a real it's a real trade-off.
Yeah.
It's good for your bank account. And then people are like, I fucking hate you. And Barstool is like, come on the podcast so we can tell you to kill yourself. And you're like,
oh my God.
Okay, guys.
I'll be right there.
Great brand you got here. No
Jeez.
thanks. But it was still really fun. Also, like the edits are out of your control. You never, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
People shitting on an actor for doing a commercial is like, get over yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jake had done that, and it was like a full day of improvising. So he reached out and was like, hey, will you come to do this thing? It's a mockumentary and you can improvise. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, Walton's in it. I'm like, oh, great. I never saw Walton that day.
Yeah.
And then later would text and be like, hey, I ended up being in this thing, and texted him a picture of me with his cardboard cutout. And he's like, well,
nice.
He's like, that's fucking wild, man. Whoa. Hey, that's good, man. No, he's a total sweetheart. He's really, really supportive. And, anytime you learn a lot from people like that. When people
I'm sure
are older and more experienced than you, and they're kind to you, you're like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. It teaches you how to treat other people if you don't already know to be nice to people.
yeah. You would hope that is just a trait you have, but it's refreshing when
it's generous, and that whole Gemstones crew, like it's all really generous people. Like I'm coming in kind of either the youngest or the kind of least experience in the industry, and people have treated me really kindly and generously. So it's a good situation to be in. I love telling people that when people are like, I'm a fan, what's it like? And I'm like, it's really good, man. It's
It's
a really
legitimately awesome. Everything you think it would be. But, and then I know you have to go, but real quick, do you have a social media people can follow you on, or any projects you're working on you wanted to promote or anything like that?
Let's see. Yes. What is I always forget this because they're like one tiny thing different from each other. My Twitter is Tim_Baltz. My Instagram is Tim.Baltz.
Ooh.
Conscious choices.
Naturally. Yeah.
And then I'm pushing. I mean, Gemstones seasons 1 and 2 are streaming on HBO Max. So go check that out. John Bronco 1 and 2 streaming on Hulu. I did a show years ago. The main thing that moved me out to LA was this show called Shrink. And it's unavailable to stream or purchase anywhere, despite being owned by NBC, who has the power to put it on multiple platforms. So I'm told. And I'm also told that if you DM me, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows how to watch it. So.
Oh, okay.
That's what
good to know. All right. Sounds good. All right, my man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Sorry for keeping you so long, but
my pleasure. No, not at all.
Yeah, it's been an absolute blast, my man.
Yeah, that was my pleasure, man. Thank you. I'm glad that I picked this one. This was a great conversation about it.
Well, there you have it, folks. Tim Baltz on Bottle Rocket. Again, super cool dude, super funny, and insightful on the film. But we've got a couple guests coming up, couple of ones that, I'm passionate about all of them, but there's a certain hockey player I won't mention yet that I grew up with. That's the jersey right there if you're watching the video. I've had that jersey since I was about 10, 11, 12 years old. And he's coming on the podcast. I get to speak with one of my sports idols, and we're going to talk a movie, but I'll let you know who that is soon. Again, a lot of fun with Tim Baltz. Follow us on Instagram, Blockbuster Mentality. Twitter at BlockbusterCast. Go to blockbustermentality.com. All of those you can find updates on the show. But all right, folks, well, that is it for me. For Tim, I'm Ben, and as always, grab some popcorn, grab some snacks. We'll catch you guys at the movies.